Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. Today's episode is episode 203 for those keeping count. And for all you entrepreneurs that feel like zombies, my guest and I are actually wearing our anti-zombie shirts. And we didn't do it on purpose. It was just pure coincidence. But I'm bringing on Daniel Olexa, and we're going to talk about discovering life again. So you no longer have to feel like you're a zombie just walking around the earth. So, Daniel, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So, how does one not feel like a zombie? Besides wearing these awesome shirts.
Yeah, so we're pushing up palm trees instead of pushing up daisies, kind of thing. Yeah,
And I got flowers on mine.
they're awesome. It's it, the biggest thing to come back is start noticing where you're putting your energy. And if your energy isn't fulfilling you because you're putting it to an employer or overproducing to family, putting too much attention on the worries and concerns of others, you're probably living a dead life. Now I sound slightly like a zombie Jeff Foxworthy, but at the same time, if you are not fulfilling yourself, you cannot give from an empty cup. So it's time to come back and be just a little selfish across the board and take care of.
Yeah, and off air, we were actually talking about a little bit about social media. And a lot of the gurus tell you that you have to be everywhere. And this kind of goes back to where you want to put your attention. For me, I select three core social networks. It's Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for these videos that get posted to help entertain people. And that's it. I mean, you might see some of my stuff on Instagram and Twitter, but I don't focus stuff there. A lot of that stuff that you see is auto posted from programs that I use, but I focus my attention where my clients are and where I want them to be. And otherwise, if I had to post to everything, I would be burned out. I would be a zombie because I wouldn't know what direction I wanted to go.
And there's a lot in there also as you're sharing that brings me to the concept of personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
And if an entrepreneur is going to be putting out a branded message, particularly a personal branded message, if they are their service, they better know who they are.
Right.
Because if we haven't done the work in here to know who we are and our core identity and what brings us alive, what makes our heart sing in working with a client, yeah, the message is for the client, but you have got to know who you are if you're putting that message out.
Yeah. My personal branding has kind of evolved over the last 20 years. And for the first half of me consulting people, I was very, let's say I walked on eggshells. I didn't want to offend anybody. I wanted to be all PC, and that's great. But when I started launching my Rob versus, series of sarcastic books, I've gotten more clients. I've gotten, more dollars because of my sarcastic personality coming to light and shining. And people are like, wow, I didn't know you were this funny, or I didn't know this, or I didn't. And it goes, you resonate great with me. But the thing is that those people who don't like the sarcasm will never hire me. So it's kind of like rejection marketing. I don't want people to hire me if they don't, feel some connection.
Mm-hmm. And that I've discovered the same thing as since I went running from corporate nearly 10 years ago, my brand has evolved over the years because I was in that same space. And I think it's a natural place. I don't want to offend anybody
Mm-hmm.
because we live in that Instagram, Facebook world of if I offend somebody, they're going to blow me up and try to cancel me. Well, I've got one finger for that. You know what you can do with your cancellation.
You're number
Yeah, it's
one.
that one. That's it. Your number. And I have come in the past couple of years, particularly since the pandemic, really have locked into I really don't give a flying F what somebody thinks about me if I'm not trying to trigger them, if I'm not out there intentionally trying to push their buttons.
Right.
If you don't like it, don't like it. You are not my intent. You are not my ideal client. Just keep moving on.
Yeah. And this whole thing on social with people getting triggered over everything, you know, and I go back to the old Shrek movie where he says, your life has to be like an onion. You got all these layers. Why is it that we are not acting like that? I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have to have thick skin because someone's going to give us a negative review. Get over it. But social media seems to be that battle where you post something, somebody gets triggered, next thing you know, you get suspended for 24 hours. It's BS. Everybody just needs to grow some thick skin and get over it.
Yeah, I would go to a different thing of what they need to grow, but that's a different conversation for a PGRR rated discussion.
Yeah, it's just
On both sides of it, on both sides of that conversation. Yep.
Yeah, it's and the funny thing is that I went to your website, and the first thing that caught my attention was the whole "I coach dead people," and the first thing that I thought of was the movie with the zombie who ends up growing a heart and becoming real. What was it called? Warm Bodies.
Oh, yes.
And it's funny because that's how most entrepreneurs get to, when they're not enjoying what they do in life. They walk around like a zombie until someone shows them the way, and then they get that passion again, and they shed that zombie persona and become a real person.
Yeah, I went through a very similar phase as I was working for others in the last 15 years of my professional career. I worked for 3 different family-owned businesses, and the joke I make now is that I had the wrong last name at every one of them. Didn't matter what I brought to the table. I wasn't related, so just ignore him over there. And the day that I snapped, it was just a bad morning for deliveries. Something was missed for one of my clients. And I blew up and walked out the door. And that was the moment that I started to kind of resurrect back to living. So I'd put everything into living for my clients, everything into living for the paycheck, doing what I was supposed to be doing for my then wife and for the house, and like all this external crap.
Mm-hmm.
And when that weekend that I broke free, I was like, I'm done. I'm never coming back here again. It was so freeing, so light. I wouldn't recommend everybody just walk out of there, just say, I'm out of here and walk out on a Friday afternoon, but it was powerful for me in that moment. I did wind up going back to that position, but it was an entirely different relationship from that point forward because they couldn't control me anymore.
Right.
And I started opening up, what am I going to do when I leave here? Because I know now I am leaving this place. And personal development journey, what am I going to do with it? And there was one day, client called up and said, we need you to come over this afternoon and help us figure out how to get this project done, because we're not sure how to close the gap, but we know you will. My little cartoon light bulbs off over my head, and I can feel it in my core how much I love problem solving. Like, that's it. What do I do with it now? And initially moved into hypnotherapy, then into coaching, in helping others kind of navigate through those what seem like unknowns, but really are just, we're not taking personal power and personal choice into the situation because we're concerned of what somebody else might think or something else, but holding that space for the client in front of me of, you are whole and complete. You've just forgotten it. I'm here to help you remember it so you can come back to life and live for what lights you up inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had kind of a similar story in the 90s, and I got so frustrated with the employer at the time, and I was winning all the sales contests every single month, and one day he's like, Rob, where are you? I said, I left. I'm heading towards a client. Well, we had a sales meeting this morning. I said, well, tell me what it's about when I get back. And he goes, if you don't get back here, you're fired. I said, well, the client comes first. And he goes, well, we'll talk when we get back. I said, well, I'm going to see the client and then I'm going to quit. And that's what I did. And about a month later, I started my own business at the time. And I had that business running for many, many years. And he called me up one day, he offered to buy me out. And I'm like, it sounds kind of, nice. Do I want to do it? And I said, nah. And I kept running the business for a while, and then I started coaching, and almost 19 years into owning that business, I sold it to somebody, and he tanked it in 6 months, and I'm like, whatever.
Mhm.
You know, he didn't understand my system. He didn't understand how I, you know, talk to clients. And I was never pushy with clients. I was always friendly, got them to talk, got them to share, and you know, and I never used anybody's script. And I think that was the problem with me and the former employer, is they had these certain scripts that they thought worked, and I never used them, and that's why I kept winning the sales contest.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because systems only go so far.
Yeah.
And you have to come at it authentically. I similar story. Like I refused to do things certain ways because it just felt slimy to me when I was in sales. What does the customer need? And even if the business I'm working for, if we don't have that ability to take care of it efficiently, I'm more than happy to go outside and be the contractor for a service.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm contracting all of it and taking on all the liability for maybe a 15 to 10, 20% margin, it ain't worth my time.
Right.
Go direct to these guys over here and they'll take care of you. And my employer's like, but you could have had revenue of that. I don't care. I had a bigger headache coming from that had we gone that direction, because we have all the liability.
Yeah.
And I am not putting myself through that. And tell you what, that client's going to appreciate it even more that we sent them direct, saved them that money. Just keep going. And invariably, those clients just kept growing and growing and growing because I was straightforward and honest with what our capabilities were and what I could do for them.
Yeah. So how does one know that they're kind of dead inside, that they've been zombified? I mean, how do they find you?
They can find me on the web under transcendentliving.com, and they can search local graveyards because I might be ambulance chasing. I'll chase the ambulance down and say, hey, come on back. Here's my card for the bureau. But no, in all seriousness,
I'm a dead person. Who do I?
yeah, who do I? That space when you're not living a fulfilling life,
Mhm.
that it's all about other people and keeping them happy, or it's all about the toys and the trappings of the next level of income, the next level of promotion, the next title, and you're saying phrases like, I'll be happy when.
Mhm.
That's telling me you're not happy now. And that's the wrong energetic, because if that thing doesn't happen, you've just put all your happiness outside of yourself. Get it back in here. And from there, we start having a conversation of like, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to sound like a minimalist here of saying like, get rid of all your toys. No, enjoy the toys. Don't let them control you.
Well, if you have an iPhone, just give it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, give it to Rob. I'm Samsung. So if you have a Samsung, we've got you covered on either side now.
No, but see, the thing is that I think that is the perfect line that you have. I coach dead people. When I go to seminars, when I go to conferences, people come up to me, what do you do? They're always asking, what do I do? And a lot of people say the same old stuff. I sell this, I do this. You know, dude, you got to get something catchy. I mean, if I'm in front of you and you say I coach dead people, I'm going to go, what? Tell me more. And that leads into a conversation, and then you become that hero because you just gave him, you know, them, him, her, it, whatever binary thing that you want to go by today.
Whatever 3 or 4 letters, initials,
Yeah,
like define your existence. Yeah.
But yeah, you are then, you know, getting in their head, their mindset, and you're saying, hey, this is how I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I really think that really entices people. I mean, it's curiosity, and I think a lot of listeners out there can follow this in such a way that, yeah, not most of you probably listening don't coach dead people, but you can use this as a way to turn things around in how you approach people.
Yeah, and it's funny when we kind of come back to life for ourselves and stop living in that, oh, your life is so miserable. How's your day today? Oh, my day's miserable. Oh, so is mine. And living in that commiseration of misery,
Mm-hmm.
and start misery loves company. That's why I think we fall into it, because we're social animals. So it's easy to be miserable with somebody than if they're miserable, like, my day's great. Oh, they might hate me. And we start living somebody's, yeah, essentially the Instagram life of, I've got to meet you somewhere. Actually, no, I don't. And it's better if I hold a beacon of happiness for myself, because if I start taking on other people's crap and just being wanting to meet them in their misery, I cannot live my life.
Yeah.
I let them open up to what they want to live.
Yeah. How did you know that you wanted to help people like this?
It it's been an ongoing evolution from when I started the business and became entrepreneurial. And I suddenly, in that whole marketing thing that you know so well, of who is your ideal client avatar.
Mhm.
And when I was really taken deep into that exercise, it went from a demographic to a full-on psychographic of that individual. I realized my ideal client really was me.
Mhm.
I'd known it on a surface level, but when we brought the psychographic in, I realized I brought the psycho to psychographic. And like, oh, that is me at an earlier point, maybe like 15 years ago.
Right.
I was in truly an existential crisis. If
Yeah.
I Here's the business side of me, there's another side that I hadn't fully tapped into and pretty much had disavowed as more of a spiritual being. And they I was treating them as two separate pieces when it was really an all of me. It has been the past 5 years of really integrating those two things, that yeah, there's the business side of me and there's this, but I'm still the same person and have flexibility there rather than living in two fully separate compartments. So anybody that come along who's in that space of a struggle, and we don't have to have the spooky spiritual religious um spiritual conversation, because not everybody wants to go there. I'm fine with that.
Right.
But there's also an element of you are not your role.
Mhm.
And if you're living your role, you are not living fully for yourself. And let's remember who you are on whatever level that is. There's a person here, and that's who I want to meet. I don't care about what title you carry. I care
Right.
about the person in front of me. And one
Yeah.
person even said to me recently, we were having an onboarding conversation to see if we were right for each other. It's like, what makes you different from all the other coaches out there? Because I see your rates are really high. I'm like, I don't give a damn about your problems. I care about you, because you're creating the problems or the story associated to them. I care about you. We correct that and help you be who you are. The problems are going to go away, or
Yeah.
they'll change.
One of the things that I do for a lot of my clients, because they see my stuff. They see, I'm very sarcastic on the internet, and they're like, do I really want this guy as my friend? And one of the things that I do on my onboarding call is, look, when you hire me, I am your friend first. I am your marketer second. So if you have a problem in your life or anything else, you pick up that phone and you call me. We'll talk it out. Because a lot of times, they're going through other stuff and their mindset's not there. So when they try to implement what I'm teaching them, they can't because their mindset's clogged. But I come in as a friend. Oh, okay. It's all clear now. I can focus. Let's do this. And they have much more success. And, yeah, I got their back. And yeah, sometimes I'm sarcastic. Like the other day, someone called me up. Hey, Rob, I can't figure this out. I said, well, maybe it's operator error. And they're like, ah, ha, ha, I get it.
You tried unplugging yourself and plugging yourself back in.
You know, but yeah, they know that I'm probably not going to give them the correct answer right away. I want them to think about it. But my goal is to make them laugh, to make them kind of not think about their problem for a second, so that it's kind of a slap to that head. Hey, I need you to readjust. I need you to think about something different, so that I can come in here and clean things up. And some people get it, some people don't. But my ideal clients are ages 40 to 65 that have businesses that are somewhat successful. They've been in business for a while, but they needed to get to that next level. And also that have a sense of humor. I find that people are older than that are, they're ready to retire, and people that are younger than that have very little money. And it just, yeah, I've kind of segmented things to the point where I know exactly who my demographic is, and it makes it so much easier to make a sale.
Very much so, because you're speaking right to the need.
Yeah.
And same thing here is mine. Demographically, I'd say I'm probably in somewhat that same range.
Mhm.
Um, Taking it to the psychographic level, the mentality is someone who's in that similar range, recognizing that they're at that existential crisis, that life isn't fulfilling anymore, but not in a depression, I want to check out kind of way, but just there's got to be something better. And most of the time, what I'll find is they have a sense of it, but they don't know what it is. They could tell you all about how miserable things are, but there's this little flicker of a candle flame that's, there's got to be a counterpoint to this darkness. I don't know what it is yet. And that's where we sit and we really have the big conversations of, if it wasn't this way of being, what would it be? And it takes a while sometimes to develop the sunny side of the day.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm looking at your background, and it kind of gives me a sense of your personality. You know, you're sports oriented, you like comic books or comic creations. You know, other people might look at it and say, man, that's looks like a wall of shame. You got Smith up there and Mahomes, and but yeah, to me, it allows me to see kind of inside of who you are. And I think anybody doing these Zooms, if you're doing them frequently enough, you know that you should have something in the background that shows people who you are. If it's just, you know, a white background or bookshelves, and get rid of all that crap and go sit somewhere that it elicits some type of personality, because people need to know who you are, what you do, and what you do that does not have anything to do with business.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
but I do like that graphic. Who is that?
The one above me, that's
Yeah,
me.
it's you.
I had that drawn. That is
Uh,
my superhero self that I had drawn
oh,
2 years ago.
it kind of looks like Firestorm, and below that you got Flash.
Yeah, it's a recreation of Flash 123, which is the first time they crossed over between the two worlds, the Golden Age and the Silver Age characters. Let me see if I can get this one down really quick. This is me in my superhero self. The character name is Fresnel, like the concentric rings on the lighthouse lens that intensifies light. My job is to help people intensify their light and share it to the world.
See, he uses he uses personality, he uses cartoons, he uses graphics, and you know that gives people a better idea of what they can expect. And I think every entrepreneur needs to showcase somewhat of their personality. Behind me, you got all the books that I've written or helped develop for other people, and so it gives people an idea that, hey, you know, I'm going to work hard for you, and but I'm also going to be fun. I'm gonna show up, and you know, we're gonna be best friends,
Mhm.
or at least, you know, somewhat friends.
We'll at least get along.
That's right. For a little bit of time anyway, till I decide you're gone. You know,
Hmm.
as Ming the Merciless says in Flash Gordon, he goes, you know, what did he say? For the hour. I guess when he's going to marry the. Yeah. So it's but yeah, you know, it's I really like the website, because it shows you, you know, in a light that most people, you know, when they go to a website, they're expecting this, you know, rah stuff. They just want to feel motivated, but you know, you're more, you know, even keel.
I want to
And
meet them where they are, because they're most likely looking, they might not have that idea of the light bulb moment yet.
right.
They're fumbling in that darkness. Like, does someone else understand this experience that I'm in right now? I'm like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I understand it. I've been there. And then connect to the reliving.
Yeah, it's and it's a great site. I mean, granted, you're not wearing your Hawaiian shirt, you're dressed up, and you know, but it tells a little bit about your story. And I think everybody needs to share their background story, how they became that superhero. I mean, you right there, not only do you tell your origin story, but you showcase that kind of the avatar of who you want people to see you as.
Mhm. And it's funny how even that tagline of "I coach dead people" was just a happy accident one day.
Mhm.
um, the marketing person I had hired a couple years ago, or last year actually, we stumbled on it. I had already rewritten my About Me page to tie into the movie The Sixth Sense,
Mhm.
but hadn't overtly said I coach dead people. That wasn't there yet. It's just kind of my journey. And we were going through a revision to the homepage as we just adapted the new template. Had this line of copy that we needed a placeholder so it wouldn't disappear when we wrote the rest of the copy. And just on a spur of the moment, knowing what the text was on the other page, I'm just going to type this in and let it sit. And she typed in, I coach dead people. I'm like, do not touch that line ever again. That's it. We just nailed it. It was just there. Not so. To anybody out there in marketing as well, certainly go through the process, but sometimes those happy accidents just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and the funny thing is sometimes my book titles, I'll sit there for hours and is this going to, and then I'll see something on the internet someone posted and like, that's it. And why didn't I just do this earlier? But no, I just had to waste hours of my time. But yeah, sometimes I don't think there is happy accidents. I think there are, it's the world saying, hey, this is your time to shine. This is the moment. I'm going to give you all the clues that you need. You just have to put them together.
And I've noticed in the journey, that's a true thing too, particularly here looking back over the breadth of life experience that got me here. I think my original degree is in commercial art and design from York, Pennsylvania. My bachelor's degree is from Millersville in broadcasting. I worked in sales.
Millersville, for all you guys who know, is right in my backyard. So come on out and we'll have a coffee or beer or whatever you choose.
Yeah, good beer in Pennsylvania, and with pretzels. With pretzels, got to have the soft pretzels.
In fact, I just went to the House of Pizza up the street from Millersville, and probably you went there many, many times.
Oh, it's in my blood still.
Gus is still there.
But and it's funny how looking back on that journey now, it seemed like so many parts and pieces that didn't connect, because here's art, here's broadcasting, here's this other thing, here's sales. And when I got here doing what I'm doing and I took a look back, it all made sense. Yeah. The puzzle pieces came together because it gave me, the broadcasting gave me the presence, the intonation, the understanding of how to be on camera, how to be in front of others. The art degree, really graphic art, as I say in the video on my website, it's nothing more than visual problem solving. I've been solving problems my entire life in different ways. Yeah,
it's this year will be my 35th high school reunion, and I look back and I'm thinking, wow, in high school I took art, I took computer science, computer programming, all this stuff that has led me up to this point 35 years later, and I'm doing all the things that I love to do through the course of time. And now I'm getting paid big bucks to do it. So, and there's a lot of people out there that they'll do the same thing year after year after year after year. For me as an entrepreneur, that gets stagnant and stale and boring. And I have to learn new things, because maybe in 10 years, who knows, I'll be incorporating that into something else and making money at it.
Yeah, just keep flowing forward. But if we got to flow forward from our place of happiness and create it, rather than I'm going to chase the next thing because I think that's what's going to make me happy. But so many people fall into that energetic and putting it way out there in front.
I just had this conversation with a client, and they contacted me out of a panic, and I haven't done any work for them for many, many, many years. And they said, Rob, to be honest, we're not making any money. I said, why not? I mean, what happened to all the stuff that I taught you years ago? Well, that worked to an extent, and then we stopped doing it, and then COVID and this and that. And so all I'm hearing was excuses. And so I go to their social media, and everything that they're doing has nothing to do with what I taught them years ago. But now they're trying to get into the NFT space, or crypto, and they want to teach this and teach other people to do other stuff. And nothing is congruent, nothing is related to each other, and it's just confusing. And I said, well, right there's your problem. I said, it's confusing to people. And they're like, well, that's not it. I said, how much money are you making with all the different things that you're doing? And they said, well, not enough to pay bills. We're probably not going to be able to make our rent this month. And I said, get rid of all the other junk and go back to focus on what you were doing, 4 years ago. So they made these little adjustments to their posts. And within probably an hour after making that first post, people were like, yeah, I remember you did that. And they picked up, and they're kind of on their way to start making sales again. But one of the things I try to tell entrepreneurs is stay away from the shiny objects, because they look attractive, but you're like a moth to a bug zapper. It looks nice. It's not gonna do anything to your business.
Yep. Stay on target, Red Leader.
Although red leaders always get shot down. Or is that red shirts?
That's red shirts.
That's red shirts.
Although I think Red Leader did get shot down in Star Wars too.
Yeah. But anyway, it's kind of cool though, because we think on the same level. We like the same things. I love comic books. I like sci-fi. I like Disney and Star Wars. And I'm not a big sports fan, but you can I just never grew up watching sports because I probably had kids at the time and they took over the TV, and so I just never got into it.
There's actually a story behind those two jerseys that I tell when I'm teaching, and why it's those two individuals on that team. I lived in Kansas City for 16 years, and it's difficult. I shouldn't say it's hard to live in Kansas City and not become a fan of the Chiefs, because the team is just so enmeshed into the culture of that city. And when Alex Smith was brought in back in the mid 2010s to be the quarterback, really talented guy, had been with San Francisco. When he got injured and Kaepernick took over the team, Smith was kind of pushed to the side because Kaepernick was the wave of the future in San Francisco. So he goes to the Chiefs, 5-year contract. At the end of the 4th year, they go to the draft and they get Patrick Mahomes. And he knows what's coming. Like, this is the life of a professional athlete. Year 5 is my last year. I'm going somewhere else. My salary cap is too high. They're going to push me out the door. But rather than being a jerk, he coached Mahomes up during that year, helped him to see the game faster, helped him to analyze things. And Mahomes has been very adamant over his now 4 years running that team, that he would not be where he is if it wasn't for Smith. And here's a kid who is the youngest Super Bowl winning quarterback ever, is both a Super Bowl MVP and a league MVP, and has been at the very least to the AFC Championship game every year he's been in charge of that team. It's like that level of talent. Yes, there's natural talent there. There's also what was nurtured under the tutelage of Smith. And then Smith's leadership, when he eventually wound up in DC, played there, had a decent run, and had his leg snapped in the same way that Ripken's leg was snapped. Never thought he'd come onto the field again. They were talking amputation. 2 years later, he walks on the field, plays again, and takes his team to the playoffs. So his TED Talk is phenomenal. It's one of the best ones I've ever heard. A professional athlete, particularly a quarterback, like there's 32 of those guys in the country, and he's like the quarterback. But for him to stand on stage and talk about imposter syndrome and lack of confidence and being on the field for the Niners, like, they picked me, do I really belong here, kind of thing. It's an awesome TED Talk.
Yeah, it's I've listened to a lot of TED Talks, and I think that people need to realize that there are good ways and bad ways to do TED Talks. The way you described, that's a good way to do a TED Talk. But I've seen them where all the person really wanted to do was get up there, say what they wanted to say, film it, put it on their website. Oh, I did a TED Talk. And then I go to look at their TED Talk and it's horrible. It's not on point, has nothing to do with their business. They just wanted to ramble on, and it's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that people do things, again, shiny object syndrome. They do things because they think it'll improve their life in some way, shape, or form. But all it does is either confuse the client or doesn't make them any money at all. And To me, that's the fastest way to become a zombie. If too many shiny objects are in your way, and you're trying to save a business using all these things that really don't make a difference. I've over the years, I've simplified my business. COVID really changed the way I do business, and when you get COVID and you're down for 45 days, and you come back and you're like, do I really want to spend 8 hours in the office? No. So I reduced all my hours to 4 hours a day. I get stuff done when I'm here. I hyper focus. I probably get more stuff done in one day than most people do all month. I mean, writing 36 books in 9 years, that's just proof positive. But, whatever I can't get done in those 4 hours, I got the next day. And, people are like, well, I can't do that. I have this great business with all the employees. If you have all these employees, you can work 2 hours a day and field all the stuff out. People think on a whole different, I don't know. I feel if you're an employee, you created that business to fund your personal life. You didn't fund your personal life, for the business. So, you got to take back control. You got to say, hey, I did this for freedom, and have freedom, not just kind of tell people, hey, I have this great business, but it takes up all my time, and I really don't have any time to do with anything. I don't want to hear it.
That is a dead life.
That's a dead life. That's a dead life. Really a dead life. And I look at Elon Musk. The richest man in the world. He's got multiple businesses. Everybody knows who they are. I mean, you got Tesla, you got solar, you got space, and the guy still takes time off to do what he wants. He runs his business the way he wants. He tells the SEC to suck it. He's not afraid of anything. And I think every entrepreneur, the reason why you created a business is because you wanted something that you can call your own, but now you're afraid of the IRS, you're afraid of this, you're afraid of that. That's not a business.
And what popped in my head as you were saying, talking about Elon Musk, and it reminded me instantly of Richard Branson, who lives the same way. And the next thing that came in, I heard everybody else's excuses that tend to be shared whenever we bring those individuals in. Oh, but they're billionaires. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They have that attitude. No, it was their attitude that created the outcome, not the outcome creating their attitude.
That's
and
right.
that's a huge shift. Be happy now, be who you want to be, let it create forward rather than this mysterious, I'll be happy when. Get out of my face.
Yeah, you're never going to be happy when, because it's never going to happen. You have to shift that mindset and say, I'm going to be happy now, and whenever else happens, I'm still going to be happy because now I'm doing the things that I want to do. Yeah. So people can find you at transcendentliving.com. Can they also find you anywhere else?
They can find me on the Book of Faces. They can find me on YouTube. They can find me on LinkedIn.
Facebook.
Yeah. All those, and Instagram. There's gonna be some big pushes coming on LinkedIn in the next month or so as we go a new direction. Facebook's going to be the fun me, and LinkedIn is going to be the professional business me as I help business owners come back to life.
In the last year and a half, I've grown my LinkedIn by about 3,000 followers just by posting regularly, by engaging more. And, I've never had that kind of growth on Facebook. I've been on Facebook for 9 years. You can only be capped out at 5,000 friends. I've done that. And I'm tired of removing people to add people. It's just a dumb game. LinkedIn, I think you have a 30,000 friend limit. It's going to take me a long time to get there because I'm only at 8,000 now. But, the engagement, I think, on LinkedIn is totally different because you have people that have money, that run businesses, that are your target audience, that, if you're doing business to business, If you're doing business to consumer, then go ahead, stay on Facebook. But my target market is a lot of times not on Facebook, they're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and those individuals searching for services on LinkedIn aren't getting distracted by cat videos the way they are on Facebook.
And one of the things that for me, I'm a big Disney fan, and in my profile I put I'm a Disney fan. I put I have 30 plus author books, speaker, blah 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 blah, and then it says a Disney fan. I probably have 40% of my followers on my Anspach Media business page are all Disney executives, just because I added that little phrase. So when you find that target market, you find that section of people that you want to go after, just do it in a very nuanced way, and they're going to follow you.
Yeah, doesn't have to be complicated.
No. And so, to go back to, you being the coach of dead people and bringing them back to life. I want everybody listening to go to Daniel's website, transcendentliving.com, and get out of that zombie life. Learn to turn things around and take Daniel's advice. And I'm telling you right now, he's going to do some good stuff on you.
I'll throw an idea out to everybody here. I'm going to pull a marketing phrase from the late 80s, early 90s from frozen pizza. What do you want on your tombstone?
There you go.
Because if you are living your current life and what's going to be said at your funeral is stuff that you don't want said, you have the time to change it now. What's the legacy you want to leave?
Yeah, a friend of mine from previous lifetime ago used to say that to me all the time. What do you want on your tombstone? And I at first I didn't get it, because it was just one of those things where, hey, I'm young, I'm not dying anytime soon. What are you talking about? I don't want to think about that. As I got a little older, I also realized that I have this legacy that I want to leave behind. My books are that legacy to the next generation. Teach them what I know. And I want all entrepreneurs, everybody listening, entrepreneurs, business, whatever you are, whatever you consider yourself, because I know not all entrepreneurs just listen to this. I know people thinking about starting a business are listening to this. And, it has to be about your legacy. It has to be about, people say, well, I don't want to share my stuff because I don't want my competitors to know my secrets. Who cares? Share it out. I've been sharing my secrets for the last 20 years, and that has just made me a better marketer. It's made me a better person. And, honestly, I have no competitors. Nobody does what I do in the manner I do it. So for anybody who's thinking that you're my competitor, you're not. There's plenty of money in this world to go around. And so share your ideas out, because honestly, most people are never going to implement them anyway. I'm going to teach them how.
Very true.
So, any last words of wisdom before we go?
Go live.
Very simple. Thank you for being on the show, and anybody listening, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.
Awesome. Thanks.